Alrighty. Happy Thursday, everybody. Hope you're doing all right. Oh, I gotta mute myself over here. There we go. That's no fun to hear myself. All right, we got a couple things today. So we're going to talk about Java server pages. It's JSP. It's from chapter 6 here. Do a little bit of object-oriented programming review. We're going to make lots of use of classes. So if you didn't go big into classes when you took 1500 or 2151, that's a bummer. But we'll go over it again. They're really easy to use for what we're going to do for JSP. It's just a nice way of, kind of wrapping up everything about a noun, giving it all of its attributes, say all the things about that noun or its attributes, and giving you a nice little package. Well, classes are great for that. And then we'll see how we can use Java server pages to essentially do what we did in PHP, where we had the HTML written, and then we could then insert code rather than the servlet style, which is I have to print line everything to the output stream, which is a big pain in the butt. So JSP is fantastic for consuming pages for users, right? Again, we can do lots of cool things with servlets in terms of building an API, right? Stuff so people can hit our web application and get lots of data. Not necessarily user consumable content. That's a lot easier to do with a JSP directly. So we can build out nice looking pages. And then we've got to do midterm prep. Right, we got the midterm coming up next week. It is open book, open notes, open internet, but not open neighbor. My initial plan had been to have it be time bound, but I scrapped that because that just seems awful. There are deadlines in the programming world, but it's not often like, hey, sit down and do this thing in 2 hours and don't get up until you're done. That's awfully unrealistic. So it'll just open up 11/4 at 6 p.m. and it'll be due by 11/11 at 6 p.m. So when you can start it, come back to it, open, close it, save your progress as you go. We've got the sample midterm. Again, ignore the initial first couple questions. Our quiz style questions are coming out of the test banks, which I've kind of talked myself into using because they're directly from the book rather than questions that I write. So again, half the quiz style questions and half short answer, long answer style. We looked at 3 of them last week. We'll go over answers to those. So if we had a question about write a method in Java, we'll write a method in Java for our servlet, and it'll, get some parameter, do something with it. Right? So same idea. So the questions will map 1-to-1 for those. Should be a lot of fun. And then we started project 4 last week. That one's coming up due. When do we put that one in? So I always have to double check here. 11/11. So we got a little bit of time. The midterm and the project are due at the same time, 6 p.m. So, take your pick, work on them. It's supposed to be low stress. I'm sorry I haven't gotten to grading 2 or 3 yet. It's been a little bit of a rough week. I was actually at my grandmother's funeral earlier today, so kind of messed up my plans. But for sure we'll be caught up next week when you folks are taking the midterm. I'll just be sitting around grading stuff. So that'll work out real nice. I can get those all caught up for you folks. Hopefully earlier than that too, but for sure I'll be able to get through Project 3 next week. If you want to come in here and use the lab, you're welcome to do it. Let me know. I can make sure the room is open and I can come and sit and watch you if you want, or you can just take it from home. Yeah, thanks, Bork. She'd been sick for a while, so it's that wasn't a big surprise. It just, nobody knew when, so it just kind of changes the schedule a little bit here. So. So let me know. I'm happy to come in. So you're welcome to ask me questions if you have questions about the midterm, but don't ask your neighbors, right? Hopefully that makes a lot of sense there. All right, so what do you want to do first? Do you want to do JSP first, or do you want to do the midterm review first? I can do either one. All right, we'll do the midterm review first. So let me start up a new project.
Is there going to be class on the daily midterm or no?
No, so you got the whole 4-hour block there reserved. Just take the time to do the midterm. It's made to be done, so I aim for half the time, so that if I know time pressure is just awful, so ideally it takes you 2 hours or less to do it, and you've got double that in case you need it. Having to write down to the wire on a test is just awful, and that's not a good feeling. So hopefully it only takes you 2 hours, but if you need more time, you've got it. You've got all week to be working on it. Open, close it, sleep, do it in the morning if you're a morning person, do it at night if you're a night person. drink a lot of coffee first or whatever you want. So, all right, so we'll do the PHP program first. So we'll do our PHP, or we'll do midterm PHP review. And that doesn't go here. So put it, make sure it's in our 2454 folder, fall. I got rid of my folder name. Put it in that folder. Okay. Great. And then we want to copy it out to localhost. I've got port 5080 for mine. And we want to copy them to htdocs midterm PHP review. We do all that same sort of stuff we've been doing here. So next, and finish. Let me pull up XAMPP here so I get those started. And then we'll look at that midterm review that's posted out here. Maybe. Come on. There we go. I'll start up PHP. For the database question, we don't actually have data backing it, so we're just going to kind of have to pretend. But we can write the PHP code. Right. So assume we have a table called beverage with fields for ID, name, milliliters, container type. I'm going to write a PHP snippet that displays each beverage in a beverages result table. We don't actually have to write the SQL portion. Assume we have this list beverages function and have the beverages result. So it's just the little loop through that object here. So in our PHP snippet, right, we can essentially, we're just going to go copy off of one of the ones we've done before. 2454 all. We'll take a look at one of our for each loops we did for the stock project. Is that something in? Or am I imagining things? And one of our views, right, like our list stocks view, we did one of these loops here. A little for each. You don't even need the table header if you don't want it, right? We'll copy the whole table. Might as well. It'll be nice and pretty. So we had an ID, a name, milliliters, and container type. So we've got 4 fields here. So we have ID, name, milliliters, and container type. Liters. And then one more for container type. And we're going to say from beverages as individual beverage. Now, we don't have the objects here, right? So we were doing the dictionary style lookups. This was the older version. Right, so the beverage row key of ID will get us the ID. Because we're getting individual database rows out of this. We don't have the objects here. We get the name. We get the milliliters. And we'll get the container type. Right, give it a little format, and that's it. So again, if you just give me the loop, that's fine. I didn't even ask specifically for it to be in a table. So if you didn't include the rest of the table stuff, that's okay. Right? All we needed to do was display each. Oh no, I did say in a table. I'm sorry, my mistake. I did say in a table. I should read better. So yeah, in a table, right? We just copy paste, go through, get the individual field names out of the database, right? Because we're not doing that object mapping here. So it's just straight database connection. And if we wanted to test it, right, we could make an object, like a beverages object that had an array of arrays, right? We could try it real quick. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's make a little PHP block. Right? Any code that's worth writing is worth testing, right? So we want a beverages equals an array. That's semicolon. And then we need to add another, actually the dictionary, right? Where we're going to have the key and the associated value, the key and the associated value each time here. Let's go see. I think we've got one we can copy off of here. Arrays and objects. There we go. take a look at, this was by index. Thought we had one, yeah, list of foods with prices. Yep, so we're just going to use this syntax here, right? This was our array syntax to generate another array. So we're going to need to add an array of the mapping type to our other array. Right, I think that was arrays push. So let's see if that works for us here. So we have an array, and then we're going to add an individual row. So we'll have a row is equal to an array. And inside of that array, we're going to give it a bunch of things. So we're going to have an ID, fat arrow for, I don't know, like 1, sure. An ID is 1, a name, fat arrow, I don't know. This is a beverage, right? So name of a beverage, how about milk? And then we had milliliters, I'm going to spell this wrong. We'll copy paste. Fat arrow, and that was, I don't know, we'll do 100 milliliters. And then a container type. Fat arrow, I don't know, plastic. I don't actually know what I was thinking with container type there, right? We can do our array notation, fat arrows for the mappings here. We have that item. Then we're going to push that onto our beverages array, right? So array push, given the array, right? So that's our beverages array, given the row, right? And then we can end our PHP block. So this should just do 1, right? We can push 1 more on, right? Why not? We'll do 1 more. Of course, this one needs to be coffee. And coffee, of course, you're drinking more of, like 250 milliliters, and this is a mug. Right, so we'll push both of those onto a beverages array, and then let's see now if we can loop through. And this is all just for our own purposes, to see if it's going to work for us, kind of mocking this up, rather than trying to build a database and do the whole database connection thing. Right? It should behave the same way, right? We get a 2-dimensional array when we get those database results. We get the row, and each row is one of these associative or mapping types here. Let's give it a shot. Oh, I forgot to change the browser. That's going to be ugly. Forget that. Forget that. No! IE die. I think it's actually gone with Windows 11, isn't it? I think they finally killed IE. And we just now have Edge or Edgium. Hey, look at that. And we have our little table here. So feel pretty good, right? Spend a little extra time to make sure the code we wrote actually works. Feel pretty good about it. Right, this one makes sense? And just kind of doing our mock-up here so we have that object. Totally optional. Like this would have been fine, but you know, if you have typos or something, I'm probably not going to mark you down on typos anyway. But like if you totally butcher and don't get the actual field names, yeah, you might not get the point for it there. Right, so just make sure they match, or at least match close enough, right? We had milliliters, we had container type, we had ID and name, right? That sound okay? Right, and you can use the same sort of thing for doing your own testing, right? You can make an array and then add in your own mappings too, if you'd like to test it. You're welcome to copy off of this, right? Nothing wrong with that. Although if you just give me the table here, I'm not even going to see your testing. So you can just copy paste that into the midterm there. We good on that one? Right, next one. Write a PHP or Java function that accepts an argument for pizza diameter and number of slices. Your function should calculate the slices of area of a slice of pizza cut into as many slices as requested by the argument. Return the area of a single slice. So if we get a diameter and the number of slices, we can calculate the area of a circle as pi times the radius squared. Radius is half the diameter. And then if we cut it into so many slices, right, we have that portion of it. So should we do PHP? We already got PHP open. It should be pretty much the same thing here, right? We'll be ugly and we'll just do our PHP. I don't know, we can throw it up here, right? No, not that. PHP. So if we want a function, right, this was calculate area of slice given a diameter and a number of slices. Right? So we need to calculate the area first. So total area is pi, and we can just use the approximate, right? 3.14159. That should be plenty, right? I don't really care what you do for pi, right? As long as you got the 3.14, I think we're good enough for our purposes. So it's pi times the diameter divided by 2 times the diameter divided by 2 each time. And if we're squaring that, right, it really doesn't matter which order we multiply them in. It ought to do the right thing, right? But if we want, we can force it here, right? Nothing wrong with forcing some order of operations. Right? And then we can return that total area divided by the number of slices. That's it for the function. Nothing too crazy, right? That sound good? Now, testing this one is a little bit trickier, right? Because we'd have to calculate, do the math ourselves, but yeah, we can do that, right? We can add another thing here. How about an H2, the area of a slice of, or what, a 1/8 slice of a 12-inch pizza is? And we want to echo. So if it's a 12-inch pizza and we want 8 slices, not $, it's 12 and 8. Echo that. Let's see if that one calculates for us. What do you think? $14? Really? 14 square inches? That's surprising. Is that right? Let's see. What is 14? Come on, calculator. 14.137 times 8. It's 113 square inches in a pizza. So if we divide that by 3.14, we divide that by 6, we get 6 left over. Seems to check out. 14 square inches of pizza. Wow. I guess inches are small. Oh, doesn't that seem like a big number, right? Like that's a hot and ready slice, isn't that? A wider hot and ready's? Diameter hot and ready pizza. Oh, come on. Pepperoni. Large. Wait, where's the size? Someone tell me the size here. Why is there not 14 inch, maybe? 14? Wow, so it's even more. Well, let's fix that up then. So that's a 14-inch slice of pizza. But you're only getting half of that, right? So it's 7 inches because you cut to the center, right, when you take your slice. If we cut that into 8 pieces, 19 square inches of pizza per slice. Maybe that's why we don't measure our food in square inches. So, I don't know. That's interesting now. It is not the number I was expecting. But today we learned something. I showed my kids, because I'm weird like that. We looked at the amount of pizza you get as the diameter increases to show them a nice little quadratic curve. And they were like blown away because we did like homemade pizzas. And I was like, hey, if you roll it out to 12, you get this much pizza. If you roll it out to 14, you get this much. If you roll it out to 16, you get this much. And if you roll it out to 20, you get this much. And they're like, whoa. It was cool. Maybe. Okay, it was not that cool, I guess. All right, last one, a servlet function then. So we got to go close this one down, or I guess I'll just leave it there. We'll do a new midterm Java. We want a Java web project here. This is midterm Java review. Make sure we put this in the right folder. 454. Yep. Wow, that means I'm using Tomcat. Go to Midterm Java Review. Looks good. We don't need any frameworks. We're good. Man, I really want some pizza now. I mean, it's something better than Hot and Ready's. Something better than Hot and Ready's for sure. All right, so we only have our index page. We need to go add a servlet, right? So we're going to go to our source packages. We're going to do a new servlet. And we want a package, right? You want to avoid the default package. Default packages are bad. Midterm review, or I don't know, Java review. Just do all the same names here. This is midterm Java review. Why not? Review. Okay, yes, we want to add this to our web XML. That's the magic that happens for us so that we can hit /midterm Java review and have it find it. So we don't even need to start Tomcat, right? Remember, if we've mapped it here in NetBeans, it's going to start for us, which is fantastic. And then we wanted a servlet function, right? Get number of blanks. It gets the number of blanks get parameter, returns a string that looks like blank, 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 blank for however many blanks we were supposed to get. So we'll add our own little function here. So private string, right? It's going to return a string. So this is get blanks, I guess. And if you're going to get something out of the request, right, you need to be passed the request here. Right? So we need to define that in our function that we can do this. So we're going to get the string number of blanks. Actually, we probably want that as an integer, right? So we'll have an int number of blanks is my request.get parameter. Get parameter given number of blanks. Right? And then we need a string result here. So we're going to have our string result. Starts off as nothing. Oops, that's integer.parseInt. Integer.parseInt. There we go. It'll be happier assigning an int to an actual integer. Okay, and then just a simple loop, right? We can say for int, I don't know, blank 0, blank is less than number of blanks, blank plus plus. We're going to take our result. We're going to append in a blank and a space. When we're done, we can return the result. All right, just give me back a bunch of blanks. Now, okay, sure, we're technically not getting the last one here. So I wouldn't mark you down for leaving a trailing one because it's not that big of a deal. But if you wanted to, right, we could take a substring of that. Excuse me. Substring starting at 0 up to result.length -2, right? Because length is not a valid index, right? So length -1 is the last character, and length -2 will trim off the last space here, right? So, you know, again, over and above. But we can try it. So to do that, though, we need to pass it, right, a number of blanks parameter. So we need a form that does that. So probably easiest to just add that to our index page here, right? And have that form passed to our midterm Java review servlet. Again, it's worth checking to make sure it does what it's supposed to do, right? So I'm just going to go steal a form here because I don't like writing my own forms. So let me zoom that back out for a second. JSP Hello World. I think we had a form in this one, right? That's in the web folder. Index. Yeah, here's our form. So we'll grab a form. Sure. We'll throw this in ours over here. Function with blanks. Oh no, sending it to midterm Java review. We have a number of blanks. Name is number of blanks. And show me the blanks. Right, we don't even need a title. That's fine. Fix our browser here, and we should be able to hit run. Let's see if it works for us here. And it should go and start up Tomcat behind the scenes for us, so we should be able to see all that output out here. Yeah, look at that. It even found our OpenJDK. Life is good. Life is good. It's working. Takes a little bit of finagling there, but once it's up and running, it's pretty nice. And then it should show, oh look, Tomcat's running on 8080. Yay. Should say okay to test and test when we added our server there. All right, show me the blanks. How many blanks should we have? Like 5? Uh-oh. We got the servlet. Oh, we never called our function. We haven't made anything with it. We should probably do that, right? Out.println. What do we get back from get blanks given the request? Right? Maybe add that in its own H2. I don't know. H2 plus the get blanks plus a ending H2. Sure, we'll try that. All right, 5 blanks. Uh-oh, that's only 4. What did we do wrong here in our loop? See, this is why it's good to test. Set 5. Did I substring too much? It really just length -1? Oh, I have not done substring in a long time. So I think you give it the one where you don't want to end. Right, because usually you could substring up to length and will stop before it gets to length. All right, that's my bad using substring wrong. I teach Java. All right, there we go. Now we got all 5 blanks. And again, if we wanted to change it here and do like 50, we get 50 blanks. Look at that. And it gives me a random, or the amount of blanks I want each time. Feeling all right? So we'll go ahead and commit that to GitHub. Got that whole midterm review done. So again, you'll do a function that has to go get something with a parameter and do something with that parameter. That's the idea here for these. So again, this one you're going to write a function. You make sure you pass it the request. You can't get parameters if you don't have the request. Right? So if the function needs to go get the request or get the parameter, right? You need to pass it that request. This one's just write a function that does something here, just either language. And then, you know, assuming you've got some sort of database table, do your mappings here and do a little for each loop. Again, it's meant to be low stakes, right? I don't believe in high stakes testing. I think that's awful. It's not a good measure of if you know how to do something. I much prefer the projects. So, all right, stop PHP. We'll leave Tomcat there. 54. Fall. Midterm review. There we go. Commit. And push. All right, we're going to close these down. All right, we'll close all those. Close our tabs. Yep. Are we good? Oh, I don't need Twitch open. That would slow things down. I think we're good here too, actually. I think I can close that one down. Close as many things as I can to speed this up. All right. You know, I could use a little Coke real quick. I'm a little parched. So why don't we take a quick break? You want to do a whole 10 minutes or something shorter than 10? I can do either. 10 is good. All right, why don't we take 10 and we'll come back and we'll pick up our Java server pages. Hey, alrighty. Hey, Professor Perp, how you doing tonight? Good to see you around. All right, we finished up our midterm review. What I did want to mention, in case you folks are not done yet, we have winter registration is open now, and I got a cool tip. There was some federal grant money given for student relief as some sort of, I forget what was the program, HERF, I think is the name. So they told me if you do register for a class for winter, you'll get an email from the school saying something about requesting HERF funding or applying for HERF funding, or I have to get the actual title of it again. But if it says HERF and it mentions free money, it is legit. All you have to do is ask for it. So everyone, regardless of whether or not you get financial aid, can get at least $400 for taking a class at OCC, which is kind of crazy. So it's sweet. It'll pay for a course, pay for a book maybe. Our 4-credit classes. I guess that's the entire payment there. But if you take someone less, it might work out. So registration is open. Classes are filling up. It seems like our online classes still have quite a draw. Like I think most of those ones are filling up first. Right, like Dr. Baugh is doing data structures. You haven't taken that yet. He's got less people registered in person. This is how many are available. So he's got 14 for online and only 6 for in person currently. So again, we're working on moving more of the program online. I know some people like online, some people don't. So we generally will have a mix of them. I'm planning for this course to be offered online probably in the summers, and maybe I'll keep doing it in person fall and winter. I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see, but this one only runs once a semester. So like data structure, we get enough people, we can run it twice. We can have one online, one in person. We'll see how that goes. But registration is open. If there's any other courses you need, and you can get free grant money. And if you do qualify for financial aid, if you're on financial aid, I forget how it all works, you can get more than the $400. So that's pretty sweet here. So all you have to do is ask. Apparently, in the fall, when they emailed people, most people looked at it and said, "What do you mean free money? I'm not going to click that." And people left money on the table, which was unfortunate. We probably should have done a better job of communicating that, but they didn't tell us to tell you folks that until after the deadline, because I don't know why. But sorry about that. So, but for winter, it is coming up. So just keep that in your back pocket. All right, so we're going to move on to talking about JSP, our Java server pages. They're fantastic. So Java web application here. This will be some, what do we want to call this project? JSP examples? Well, JSP examples. And we don't need any frameworks. We do want to copy our stuff, add to the web XML. Life should be good. So we're going to do a couple things. So the first thing is we still use servlets. So typically your servlet is the main routing point. So in that model view controller style that we looked at when we were doing our PHP work, the servlet is going to act as the controller. Right? Requests are going to come into the servlet, and then our JSP, our Java server pages, are going to be the views. So we're going to actually split them up, controller side and view side, and then you can also then have other code to be your model. Right? It can either be in the servlet, or generally you can have other classes for it in the servlet. So I'm going to add a new servlet to start here. So we're going to add a servlet. Call this one our JSP example servlet. And we want to give it a package name, right? Always use a package. Don't use the default package. It's ugly. Examples. Next, I'm going to add that mapping here. So /JSP examples will get picked up here. Life is good. And then we'll just make sure we can hit that JSP examples real quick. Right, you can just do like an A link, right? A equals JSP examples. Servlet here. I can't type. There's our /A. Servlet here. Let's make sure that runs real quick, right? Make sure we get our servlet up and running. I think my Tomcat was already running, so hopefully that's a quicker start here. Servlet here. All right, we get our servlet, it loads. All right, just making sure it's all set up, works before we get too far here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of JSP, our Java server pages, and the easy way to use them and to pass information to them is to set attributes in the request. So you can set an attribute on your request, and what you want to do is we want to use classes for this. So there's this idea of something called a Java bean. I don't know why they came up with the word bean, but somebody did. So you make a class, and it has to follow a couple conventions here. There's a couple things about Java beans here. So we're going to add a new class, and let's add this one for beverage. Right? We'll have some fun with beverage. The first thing you have to do is you need to implement an interface. So if that probably doesn't mean a whole lot to you, and that's okay. But we're just going to add the word implements, and you have to implement the serializable interface from java.io. It'll ask you to add the import, or if you double click when it pops up there, it'll add the import for you. This is telling Java that this class can be serialized. So if you've done the 2151 course, you probably know you can write classes to disks using binary format if they're serializable. Same idea here, but this way we're able to transmit the information of the class, right, as a piece here, maybe over the network, essentially. So then what we do then is we're going to add attributes to our beverage class, right? And this tool is full of shortcuts. I love NetBeans here. So we're going to do less work, right? We're going to work smarter, not harder. So things about beverage. We're going to have a private string for name. We're going to have a private integer for what, milliliters, remaining, maybe? Remaining. And then we'll have a private, I don't know what else do we have in it for, what else do we know about beverages? We've got a name, we got the milliliters remaining. Is that it? I don't know, color maybe? String for color? Why not? We'll have a string for color. So we add the attributes, and then the Java bean class needs a couple things, right? To be a bean, it needs to have a no argument constructor. Remember, a constructor's job is to give values to all of your attributes. So a no argument constructor needs to give these defaults, which is probably an empty string, and probably 0. Right, so we're going to go insert code and insert a constructor that doesn't take any arguments. Right, we need a no argument constructor, and it needs to set these to something that is a default value. We don't want them to be defaulted to null. Remember, null is the worst thing you can have. Right, we need a default, not null, because null will crash our programs if you try and access something that's null. It's just bad news bears. The milliliters remaining is 0, and my color is just an empty string. Again, so anything that's not null. Then what we need is we need get and set methods for all of our attributes. Public get and set methods here. Turns out insert code is easy at this, right? You click on getter, check all the boxes, or the top box will check them all for you. We add the getters. Click on insert code, click on setter, click on all the boxes, generate. We've got gets and sets now for all of our attributes and a no argument constructor. Right? Those three things. You implement serializable, you have a no argument constructor, and you have gets and sets for everything. Now, you could also, if you wanted, add your own constructor that takes parameters, or a parameterized constructor. It's another fun word there. That just makes it easier for you to use, so you don't have to make an object and then call set for every attribute. Right? If you have a parameterized constructor, you can give it all the attributes when you create it. But it does need the no argument constructor to be considered a Java bean. Okay, so I would always do both. This one is just makes life easier for you. That's all that one does for you. Just an ease of use. Okay? You might hear the term plain old Java object, or POJO. I don't know how common that is anymore. But it's a class that has a bunch of attributes with public gets and sets. There's no logic. There's no anything about this class. There's no like functional methods that we use to interact with it. All we're doing with this is letting us store a bunch of data, a bunch of attributes about any instance of beverage. So if I'm running my coffee shop, I can load this up with a bunch of different instances of beverage, and then I can display them on my menu. right? It's just a way to communicate that data in a object-oriented manner. So I don't have to have an array of arrays, right? Or something ugly like that, right? We like classes because classes make a lot of sense to us. Then what we get to do is we can create an instance of that object. So somewhere in my code here, I'm actually going to get rid of all of this here. We don't need any of that. I don't think we need that one either. We'll see. We'll see. That one might screw us up. We'll see. All right, so to make a new beverage then, right, we say beverage, I don't know, coffee equals a new beverage. And we're going to give it all of the attributes. So the first one was name. This is coffee. The milliliters remaining, right, 250 milliliters. And then the color is black. Any shade of tan is unacceptable. Black coffee is the only way to go. So now we have a beverage. Now to get that associated with this request or this response here, so that our JSP, our Java server page, can use it, we're going to attach it. So we say my request dot set attribute. And we give it, well, what do we want to call it in our code when we go look for it in the JSP? I'm going to call it coffee. And then we give it coffee. Okay, so we're setting the attribute. So now it will be available in the request that gets handled by our Java server page. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go add a new Java server page. So over my web pages, I want a new JSP. So don't put it in your Java package. Right? The Java package is for the servlet and for the classes, the beans. The web is where you're going to put your JSP stuff. So a new JSP. We'll call this beverage list or something. Now, this looks an awful lot like HTML, right? Except it has this little declaration at the top. Again, we don't need these other comments; those are junk, right? So instead of a question mark, use a %sign to indicate, hey, I want to put some code in here. Right? So that's our notation here. Yes, definitely the Black Coffee Gang there, Bork. So I first started drinking coffee in my first job. We were in an office that didn't have running water. Like there was no kitchenette or anything in the actual office area. If you wanted water, you had to go like out and down the hall to go to the drinking fountain. It wasn't nearby, but the guys at the office drank coffee. And the 3 guys who drank coffee all drank it black, and the boss would put cream and sugar in it. And all the other guys would make fun of the boss every time he put his cream and sugar in his coffee. So I didn't drink it with cream and sugar. I started drinking it black because I wanted a beverage and not have to leave the office. So thankfully I learned to drink it black and appreciate coffee for its beautiful, wonderful flavor, not for all the sugar that you add to it. All right, anyway, so we need to go and grab that piece of information. And if we've used a bean, this makes life super easy for us here. We can use our notation, and we just put in here $, and then in braces, beverage dot, or no, ours was called coffee, right? So coffee is the name that we added, right, to the request. So we called it coffee in our servlet. So we said, hey, there's this thing called coffee. So in the JSP, we say, okay, coffee dot, and then we can put in the attributes. So I have a name attribute, I have a milliliters remaining attribute, and I have a color attribute. So maybe we'll make a table here. Why not? So table. And we have a table header for name. No comments. Stop that. Table header for milliliters. Liters remaining. I guess milliliters remaining is kind of silly because we're selling full beverages here, right? But and I don't know. Color's kind of silly here too, but that's okay. We'll go with it. We can fix this up later if we want to add prices and stuff. No comments. Oh, that needs to go in a row. That's our first row. Start a row. Then we can do another table row. Oh, my goodness. Hate HTML. And then we have some table data. All right, coffee.name. Our table data. No, not a comment. Not. Why does enter think it's going to be a comment? Milliliters, liters remaining, and color. Milliliters remaining. There we go. So we use the name of the attribute, or the name of what we set here, right? We added this attribute. We called it coffee, so we use coffee here, and then dot is the attribute in the bean class. Dot name for the name attribute, dot milliliters. So you don't have to call get name or get milliliters or get color. Behind the scenes, it's going to go and use those get methods for us. So it does some of the work to make life a little bit easier for us here to do this shortcut with our Java beans. Those beans are fun like that. We could do it the other way. That'd be a little bit slower, but this is going to be a little bit faster for us here. Let's see. There we go. Because now we don't have to actually get that value back out. Otherwise, we'd have to get the value out and then do some sort of fun stuff. Okay, so we've got our JSP code here. Now we need to go and use this JSP right inside the servlet. So the servlet needs to send the request onto the JSP. Let's see where to go here. Goodness, I can never remember the syntax for this. I always have to go cheat. Where is it here? Come on, it's not even giving it to me. Oh my goodness. Where's my example? I'm sorry. I do not have any of this memorized. Not worth keeping in your head. Find it here. This is the part we skipped over in chapter 5 because we're going to get to it here. Apparently, skipping it was bad. Let's see where to go here. Yes. Okay. So to forward onto our JSP, we need the name of the JSP. So we generally use like the string URL is going to be slash beverage list.jsp. And so this is where you can find the JSP, right? We put it in the root here, so it's not inside a folder. If we put it inside a folder, we'd have to have folder slash, right? If we put it in there. Then we're going to get from the servlet context. So get servlet context. Nope, not config context. You get the servlet context, and then from the context, you get the request dispatcher. You're going to dispatch the request somewhere. We're going to send the request to our URL. And we want to forward along the request and the response. So essentially, you just copy paste this line, and you are going to update the URL every time. So it says, okay, hey, the request that came to me, send it here. And by the way, also send along the request and the response. If you don't send along the request and the response, you're just going to send the request back of the JSP with nothing that came along with it. So this will give them access to any of the things that came in the request and the response. Hey, and we added stuff to that request. Okay, so let's give that a save. Let's see if we can give this a run here. So we'll go to the servlet. Oh, we broke it here. The parser. So this expression language, that's, yep, we missed one thing here. That shorthand notation is part of the Java expression language, or EL, which is like the shorthand of doing all this. Lovely, like they show you the short way first, and then they show you the long way, so you feel bad about it. But for us to do that, we need to include a couple things. So the first thing we want to do is in libraries, we're going to right click and we want to add a library. And we want to add the Jstl library. So we add our Jstl library. That's the Java template library. We're going to add that so we have access to it. Then we need to add a directive in our JSP. So this is this funny page here, this at. So %at is a directive to tell it, hey, go load this thing here. So %at, and we want to use the tag library, prefix of C, URI. This is just a copy paste. / java.sun.com/JSP JSTL/core sent. All right, so if we add our tag library, oh, I misspelled prefix. Prefix, there we go. Okay, is that happy with that? Let's give that a run here. So we add our library, we should be able to use our expression language here now. Let's see what we get. Oh, line 20. Oh, did I just misspell it? So it was fine at line 19. Maybe I just typoed line 20. I didn't check that. Milliliters remaining. My beverage list. Oh, yep, I misspelled milliliters remaining. That's what was wrong with it. I didn't read that error close enough. All right, save our JSP. Refresh, and here we go. So the JSPs will update automatically, right, when you hit save, just like PHP files did. The servlets you need to go rerun to make it reload the servlet, unfortunately. So that's the expression library. That's the easy way to do it here, right? The not as easy way to do it here, and that's okay. This is, again, you'll see mixes and matches and everything, right? The older style, this expression language is a little bit newer, so you might see it this way, or the old way here. So what we want to do is we want to look for the attribute first. So in our JSP, we're going to go add some code. So we'll do a code block. And what we want to do is we want to go find that object. So we're going to say, okay, hey, I want a beverage. We'll call it coffee equals, and then use the request.get attribute. So same way we get attributes out of the parameter string, right? Get attribute does the same thing. We say, hey, mine was called coffee. And then what we have to do is we have to cast it as the type of beverage, right? Get attribute just usually gives you strings, what we've done so far. But you can say, hey, this is really a beverage here that's been attached to my request. I have to add an import. There we go. Add our import for beverage. So now we have coffee. And then we can see if it actually exists. So we can say if coffee is null, right, if it wasn't attached to the request, if somehow you came to this JSP not through the servlet, because the JSP is actually out there, right? We could just say there was a beverage list.jsp. You can get to it. It's not there, right? Because we didn't go through the servlet that attaches it. So we want to be safe and check, okay, if coffee was null, then coffee equals new beverage. New beverage. We'll create an instance of beverage if it didn't exist. No, oh my goodness. New beverage. There we go. Okay, and then instead of using this lovely expression language, the other way, the ugly way of doing it then, is we use code blocks. So we use %, and then we use equals. So equals is like an echo. You say % equals, we're taking whatever values here and jamming it in. So like an echo, it would like spit it out into the HTML. Same idea here. So we'd say this is my coffee dot, let me put that inside the block. Coffee dot get name, and I have to call the get name method. Right, and then coffee dot get milliliters remaining, great, and coffee dot get color. So this is the older style, right? This is the expression language style. Let's put a little note in here then, right? Style. old style. So you can see this expression language is saving you quite a bit of time, right? So you don't even have to do any of this. It goes and does this for you behind the scenes automatically, which is really cool. So now when we give this a run, we'll see this regular JSP here. We get the 0, right? We defaulted to 0. This was the empty color, empty name, 0 milliliters. That was the no argument constructor because we hit the JSP directly instead of through the servlet. When we go through the servlet, now it shows up twice, right? Once with the expression language, once with the old style JSP code. We can see here. Let's see. What else are we looking for here? Expressions, codes, comments. Yep. These code comments, right, or HTML comments will come along. If you want to hide any of your comments, use the %. This is a JSP code comment that would not get returned to the user. Right, so if you don't want your comment to show up in the HTML, don't do this, right? Don't use the HTML comments. You can use the JSP comments, and these will get filtered out. So if we refresh our page and we view source, right, there's no comments there. If I went and undid those real quick, undo, 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 save it and refresh. Now we see the comments, right? So HTML comments show up in the HTML, right? That sort of thing. So generally, right, if you don't want them to show up, we can just do our code style comments. And those will get filtered out, right, as the JSP is handled by the Tomcat server. I use tags. Yep, this is good. Get attribute. What else are we looking for here? All right, there's a third style here using Jsp tags. A Jsp tag is essentially like an HTML style that tells when the page gets rendered to do something. So the other style then is you use JSP : and you get all these JSP tags that are available to you. So we're going to say use bean. The ID is copy. The scope is, it's in the request scope. The class is equal to, now this has to be the name of the class. So this is, where's our beverage here? So it's JSP example.beverage, right? Because it's the package.class name. Where's my, the class is JSP examples.beverage. That's the name of the class. Then we're going to copy this one here for a second. This is JSP tag style. And in here, we can use the JSP tags, and we want to get property. Get proper. Where'd my come on? Type ahead. JSP get property. Get property. There we go. And we say the name is my scope from above, right? This is the coffee here. And the property is equal to the name property. That ends the JSP tag. So this is nice because you don't have to do code blocks, I guess. I've never been a big fan of these, but you'll see these as well sometimes. You get all sorts of fun stuff here. Milliliters remaining and color. Invalid standard action. What do we do wrong with our action? What's wrong with our action? We have our page import, right? Yeah, we got that. Should be fine. Why is it unhappy? Let's try it. We'll just see if it runs. Go to the servlet. Oh, invalid standard action. Yep. I must have typoed it here. Let's check that again real quick. That should be closed. What did I typo about our tag? JSP use bean. I did it wrong. What did I do wrong? You imported? No?
You're supposed to use.
I can't read yet. Use bean, thank you. Use bean. Goodness. My goodness, thank you. 5 bonus points for you. Have you ever used what instead of NetBeans? What is that, IVD? Which tool? Oh, unable to compile class for the JSP. JSP examples.beverage. Give it the wrong name? It's in the JSP examples. Did I spell it wrong? I probably spelled something else wrong because I am on a roll today. On a total roll. Examples. Beverage. No, that looks fine. All right, what else did I typo here then? JSP examples, beverage. You know, I think there's one more JSP examples here. JSP examples, because there's a project level. Oh no, that. Oh no. Can't access? So it was fine. It found it there, right? JSP examples dot. Yeah, it sees beverage there. It's a good sign. Beverage. I don't want to exclude anything. Beverage. Yeah. One more time. Let's try it. I'm going to compile class. Error occurred line 32. Oh, duplicate local variable copy. Oh, that's okay. I'm not reading my errors tonight. I'm a little messed up today. I'm sorry. All right. So we need to call this something else. We'll call this coffee 2. Coffee 2, coffee 2, coffee 2. There we go. There we go. You read your errors. There. Uh-oh. I got zeros, though. Oh. No, I can't call it coffee 2 because I can't find it in the request. Coffee, 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 coffee. Let me comment this out. Maybe we can't do all 3 at once. All right, cool. We did it. All that for a terrible example, right? Because the expression language is so much easier. Goodness. One cool thing you can do if you're interacting with the beans, this JSP tags, you can set properties of beans. Sure. If you're going to do something with that bean later, you can go for it. It's not all that interesting, though. All right. With this C library, our JSTL core here, some other things we can do that starts to help us build out that MVC framework a little bit better here is you can include other pages in JSP. So we can have like that header page in our application. So I can have a JSP for header. And in this one here, web page, add a new, we'll call this the header. And then in the header, right, we can start this head, and then we have all those links here. href, JSP example, the servlet here. Sure, servlet. Is that spelled wrong? Is that really spelled wrong? It's fine. So in our, we don't need to end the HTML either. Don't need any of that garbage. So in our JSP, this one here, we can include that and not have to deal with any of this other nonsense. Do we go all the way into the body? I don't remember if I started body. No. Start the body here. Right, that's the body of the page. So up through body, then we can get rid of, and we can include that header for us. So to do that, we use a directive tag here. Oh, I'm sorry, we use our C tags. We say C import, and the URL that we want to import is equal to our /header.jsp. And it doesn't even have to be JSPs. You could import static HTML as well. Right? If it's just a static page, great. But again, as we develop more interesting stuff in our header, we could have that, like whether or not we're logged in or not. It's nice to have that in our header here. And you can do the same thing with like a footer. You can include a standard footer with like your copyright notice and get all the year out and all that fun stuff here. But we should be able to include our header now. Right? And now we get that from the header JSP. But the servlet itself is just saying, hey, go redirect yourself to the beverage list JSP. The beverage list JSP says, okay, hey, I want to use that header and do all this other stuff. You can do some fun stuff with headers and footers or including other pages as we go. So that's the import tag. You can also do it with the JSP tags here as well. It's a JSP, it's an include. So include takes another piece, right, and sticks it in there, with that URL. So either way you want to go about it, great, we can do our imports. The thing about includes is that it's a compile time directive. Right? So when we go and compile all of our program, it gets batched together in one. Versus at runtime, right, it's going to grab it when it's running. So runtime, if we make changes, we can get those changes on the fly with our runtime. Awesome. It's going pretty well. All right, the next thing, right, this doing one beverage at a time is kind of obnoxious, right? It'd be nicer if we could have a list of beverages, right, for like an entire menu. So let's go and add another class here. Let's do another Java class. We'll call this a menu class. Right, so for this needs to be a Java bean so we can access it. Right, we want to implement serializable. There we go. And we need to have some things. So we're going to have a list of beverages. Now, I'm a big fan of array lists because arrays are fixed in size and they're really obnoxious to use. So we're going to have a private array list of type beverage. Hopefully you saw array lists in 1500. It should have been done. It's just a fancy array, essentially, which uses this cool diamond brace notation here. So we'll add our import for array list. We'll call this beverages. And then, I don't know, we probably don't even need anything other than that. Right? We just want just that list of beverages. Maybe we have other stuff on the menu. I don't know. Maybe we would have like sandwiches on the menu too, and so we could have other array lists of other types of classes. But for now, all we have is beverages. We need our no argument constructor. A no argument constructor. Now, beverages needs to be instantiated, right? We need to give it a default. So beverages will equal a new array list And when you make an array list, it knows what type it is. You can skip it here. Otherwise, you get that warning saying, hey, you can just use that diamond operator. Then we need gets and sets. So we're going to insert code. We want getters and setters. Oh, look, getter and setter. We can check both at once. I don't have to click it twice. I love it. Now we have gets and sets. Okay. So in my servlet, then, instead of making one copy at a time, right, we want to go through, we want to make a bunch of beverages and add that to the menu. So we'll make a beverage for, I don't know, espresso, a new beverage. We'll call that espresso. That's like, what, 100 milliliters or something for one shot? I forget. I should probably know that as much as I drink, but that's fine. And then we can take a menu, right, equals new menu. Now, we don't have a parameterized constructor. We don't have one that you can pass an array list. Well, that's okay. We can say menu.get beverages, and then we can add the coffee, and menu get beverages, we can add the espresso. Right, we're not going to feel too bad about it here. Then we want to add that to the request. So request.set attribute. We're going to give it a menu, and we'll count it the menu object. Right, so now in our beverage list, this needs to work a little differently. So should I leave this here so we have all the old styles and just look at the new styles? Or I don't know, it's okay. Yeah, oh no, I'm not gonna have copy at all, so let me change this here. We add a new JSP. This is our menu.jsp. So I'm going to come over to my beverage list and grab some of these. I think we can just import star. Right, that'll save us a little bit of time here, importing everything all at once. And then we'll grab our header as well. Import the header here into the menu. We don't need any of that. Right. And we can say menu, sure. Why is it not like... Oh, I already had that. That was a nice warning. So we want to loop through all of those items, right? So this is a little bit trickier, but that's okay. So we can say, here's our menu. Menu equals request.get attribute. Get the menu. And then again, we need to cast it as a type of menu. So I can get that attribute, and actually I want to treat it as a menu. Right, now I've got the menu. Probably, and then we'll start up our table here. I think we can steal the table out of beverage list. We'll back that up over here. So another code here then, we want to say for beverage in the menu.getBeverages. Right, we can do this sort of loop here. And what we want to do then in each of these, we can do our little code block here. Beverage.getName. Right, let me go copy that out of the beverage list. That's easier. We called it beverage instead of coffee. Right, so we got beverage, beverage, and beverage. No, why did I get a form there? Oh, start the curly brace. There we go. And then end our curly brace. Right, so for every beverage in that menu, get beverage. So we'll get that array list where the beverage is, do our little for loop to loop through, get each beverage out one beverage at a time. We can spit it out, and then we can end our table, and we have our nice little menu. So now we just need to make sure our servlet sends us to the menu.jsp instead of the beverage list, right? So we fix that up so we go to the menu here. We added items to our menu, right? So we have an object that is the collection of other objects. And now we can see, okay, great. Again, we should probably replace some of these like with, or maybe add color or price instead of black, but that's fine. Right? We could change that later if we wanted to. That makes sense? So we can use another bean that just is a collection of other beans. So if you're thinking about your project 4, right, where you have a list of attributes, right, or a list of ingredients in your recipe, right, you can make a bean out of it if you wanted to. Again, you're welcome to do it as a servlet. Nothing wrong with that. You can do it all in servlet land. But if you want to try it in JSP land, right, and take advantage of some of these JSPs so you don't have to do all the out print line stuff HTML, right, you can make a little JSP that just loops through and does it. And you're probably thinking there's a faster way to do this. Yes, there is. We're going to get to that after, I closed out the syllabus here. But we spend more time looking at the Java expression language and JSTL after the midterm. And that has additional shortcuts instead of having to do this all by hand with these sort of loops. There's the shorthand loops, just like we had in PHP. We can do some shorthand loops for things. But we'll get to that in further chapters. Nope, that's the wrong class. Come on. So we'll do, next week will be the midterm. Again, you don't need to show up. If you want me to come and watch you, I'd be happy to. Just let me know. Actually, my Tuesday night class, I had somebody show up and they're like, where is everybody? I'm like, we're doing the midterm. You want me to come watch you? I've been saying this for a while. So, I don't know. I'll say it again. I don't plan on coming unless you ask me to. Right? I'm happy to come watch you, but no one ever takes me up on the offer. So in 2 weeks then, we're going to pick up more expression language and JSTL from chapters 8 and 9. We've just touched briefly on them, so we'll go a little more in depth, look at more of those examples, making life even easier for us. More of those shortcuts, it's fantastic. And then the week after that, we'll get into actual database connections. This is a little bit funky with Java. It just takes an extra step, but then life is good, and it just works for us. But when we come back on 11/11, we're going to talk about the final project that you folks can get started on. Again, I'd like them to happen in pairs, but given we're still in the midst of a global pandemic, if you want to do it individually, that's fine, not a problem. You can do that as well. Then we'll have Thanksgiving break off. We'll come back, talk more about sessions and cookies in Java land, so you can do like the actual login portion of things, like we did logging in, authentication in PHP side. The week after that, just touching on some Ajax stuff, loading images. So we'll look at images in and out of the database, so you can do images there. And then talk about some frameworks. They're really easy to get started with, but again, if we teach you the basics, figure you can understand frameworks. If we teach you frameworks, you won't understand the basics. Kind of the goal there. And then looking into December already, December 16th, I shut up for once, and you folks get a chance to talk. So you'll get up here and present your final projects, and we'll try and have a little bit of fun with that. Sound good? All right, awesome. So that's all we got for tonight then. We got time to work on project 4, get that knocked out, so you don't have to worry about it before the midterm coming up if you want. Got lots of time to work on it. If you're remote, just hit me up on Discord or call or text, email. And we can hop on a screen sharing session if we need to or anything, and we can go from there. All right, awesome. Let's see, is there anybody around in Twitch land? Got to be somebody around, right? Just for fun, we can go send a raid out somewhere. Ooh, Kubernetes. We can go do that with Rob. WX Rob. We'll go take a look at Rob's channel. He's doing some fun stuff with Kubernetes. That's all the new hot stuff, so take a look there. Everybody online, take care. I'll see you around.